Hey, what's happening, guys? Dan Darrow here with another Options and Play video update. So we're all sitting around. The markets are closed for in remembrance of the late president, and there's not a whole lot to do. I mean, you kind of or everybody's midweek, so you can't really take vacation. So what do? You sit around and you read about the markets, right? You read about what happened Tuesday. You read about what's happening Thursday. Or at least that's what I do, right? Having my coffee, reading the financial news. So I figured this was a great time to maybe do a little bit different video. So this is just gonna be kind of like a quick, maybe like a quick trick of the trade. So basically, just want to show you what are a couple of the sites I use for my research for how I find out what's coming down the pipeline or what's on the calendar in the next like week, 2 weeks, month, right? Um, and both of these websites that I'm going to show you are free. So Briefing, the one I have up here on the screen, you just have to sign up for. But it's free to use, and the next one, Earnings Whispers, which I'll get to in a couple minutes, is free as well. And jumping to Briefing here, so because my trading style and the Options and Play newsletter is so focused on news events, I mean, it's really imperative that you know what's coming up, right? And in terms of free services, Briefing is fantastic. It tells you what I have up here, right? So this is their upgrades and downgrades. Obviously, like those aren't going to be scheduled in the future, but just for like daily reference, right? It shows you, the different analyst calls, right? You can see upgrades, downgrades, initiations, resumed, price target changes, so on and so forth, right? So, I mean, like that's not going to be easy. You're not going to be able to plan for that because that's, they're not going to publish that um, ahead of time. So that'll just be day of. But like going to earnings, I mean, what's great is actually let's start. Let's start what you can do with economics, and we'll work our way down. So you can see that it lays it out really nicely, right? So it's what's coming up this week. So it tells you all of like the key economic numbers, right? Beige Book, ISM on Friday, which I talked about in a different video this week. You have the non-farm payroll report, so that'll be one of the big numbers, not only for this week but for like the entire month of December. So I mean, it's great, and then it just shows you like they lay it out. So it's this week, next week's, and a little bit down the line, they go about a month out. So for those of you that are more focused maybe on treasuries or futures, banks maybe like these. This is great. An economic calendar is definitely something you want to have in your back pocket. Also, IPOs, right? So if you're a new issue trader or you're kind of interested in what's coming up, I mean this is great. I mean it tells you like so this is what is expected this week. Uh, Basically, the initial range, the initial amount of shares, and then once it prices, it'll tell you the range revised, and then like the day that it's going to actually come out. Just for reference, Moderna here. This is going to be a big one of the biggest biotech IPOs I believe ever. So this is going to be a real hot one. But just for those that like to trade these things, I mean, this is great to have. I mean, you can. I mean, these aren't going to have options available immediately, but just from like a strictly like trading point of view, it's great, right? And then what I've really used, this is like what I consult with every single day, multiple times. This is just such a valuable tool. It kind of compiles all this information together, right? So you can see this is their earnings calendar. This is for today. The markets are closed, unfortunately. But if we go out to like Thursday, it shows you, right? Like it shows you all the names that are scheduled before the open, um, consensus estimates, what are reported last year, and then what's interesting is if you click on it, right, and this is when I can kind of like walk you through a little bit what I do. So it shows historical going back at least a year. If you want to go back a little bit further, sometimes you have to pay for it, so that's when it gets locked. But at least a year, sometimes a little bit longer. But what it shows you is that the day reported. If you click on it, it'll pop up a screen and it'll basically tell you what the numbers were, how much it beat, guidance, right? And then what I like to do is pull up, so you can see it reported on September 6th, which was probably after hours because that's typically how that works. And what I like to do is pull up a chart. Give me a sec. So I'll pull up a Broadcom chart. And what I like to do, right, is you basically, so now they reported on the 6th, and you can go and highlight it, and you can see that like what it does, right? So for me, for like my historical information, I can say, okay, like I know what they did. They beat, they got it in line. I can see, then I can go walk it off on the chart, right? And I can say, okay, like the stock on that session had a really significant gap up. I can figure out how much of a move it had, right? And all this factors into what how you evaluate or how I evaluate the earnings setup. I want to know, did they beat, did they miss? I know what the guidance was like, and then I want to know what the stock reaction was, right? So I want to know if it went up, but maybe even more importantly, for what I do, I want to know how much it moved, right? And like that's just a part of what goes into it. I mean, like that's there's other things like technicals and short interest and the overall market and some other things, but this is a big portion of it. So you have a nice calendar all in one place, right? You can go up to next week. So if you want to plan ahead, maybe like a week out or 2 weeks out. I mean, it has like all of this like compiled for you, and when you click on each one, it'll tell you like the history of what that stock had done over like the last year, 2 years, 3 years, for a while back. Also, what's great is earnings whispers. So kind of like along the same vein, uh, you know, basically compiles all the names that are set to report that day. I mean, you can go into their calendar, which is later in a second. But what I like about Earnings Whispers, which is a little bit different, is that they give you revenue estimate for also. So that's one versus briefing, which doesn't give you the revenue. Uh, and then I mean, it's not going to work right now because they haven't reported. But when you click on it, what it'll do is it'll link you to the press release, right? So it's all in one place. So that's a little bit different than briefing as well, because the briefing won't do that. So if you actually want to if you want to know what they top line, bottom line, guidance, right? That'll all be here, and then in like an easy one click, they have like the press release, so you can like pull it up and read it if you're into that. Which I oftentimes like to read the press releases just because there's some snippets of information. So if you're interested in maybe sympathy plays in that sector, right? A lot of times like these CEOs or executives will talk about like business fundamentals, certain segments, and that could really impact other things. So for people that look at like a lot of different stocks and a lot of different sectors, this is great. You can just pull up the press release, read it, and then it's just all in one place here. So I thought this video is a little bit different. I'm not talking specific trades or charts, but I just felt that while we all have the day off, markets are closed. I figured it was a great time to kind of like walk you guys through a little bit of what goes into planning. If you're looking to build a game plan for the next week, the next 2 weeks, both of these briefing and earnings whispers are both like great services. They're both free, ton of information, and really helps you get into that mindset of thinking maybe like 2 steps ahead. Instead of just reacting to what's going on to today, you can kind of plan for what's coming down the pipeline. So hope you guys have a relaxing midweek day off, and when we come back after Tuesday's huge move, probably expecting a pretty wild session Thursday, and you have the OPEC meeting, and then Friday you have the jobs numbers. So it's a nice little break, and then I would imagine that we wrap it up with 2 wild days, Thursday and Friday. So expect a lot of action the next 2 sessions. So as always, reach out, questions, comments. Love to hear from you. Have a great day, and I'll talk to you guys tomorrow.